Recording birds in the wild has been called a kind of benign hunting. And enthusiasts often say their favourite bird is the next, the one they haven't seen or heard yet. But how do you tell the call of a lyrebird, who's famous for imitation? Jane Ullman takes us into the glorious bush of southeast Australia to meet a clever bird whose song is as unique as it is hard to catch.
We want you to imagine the setting as dense mountain forests, cold and damp, shrouded in cloud and fog. You will hear the wind howling through the giant gum trees 200 feet high, which tower above blackwood, and a tangled profusion of tree fern, sassafras, hazel and musk, so that the winter sunlight rarely reaches the fern-clad ground.
As the evening sort of settled in and it kind of began to drop down on us, just as the song, as birdsong, you would expect it to hush, this incredible sound came up from the valley floor. And now I didn't actually know what it was, and neither did Sid Nolan.
Just retrace our steps a little bit. Will probably be easier.
No, it's easy, but... So going back?
That way?
Yeah. Back that way?
All the way back?
The song of the lyrebird is the first recording ever made in the Australian bush of a wild bird in its natural surroundings. The lyrebird has been chosen because it is the premier songster of Australia and is probably the world's greatest mockingbird. The lyrebird is extremely rare and shy. It lives only in the dense forests along the eastern and southeastern coasts of Australia. No bird even resembling it is found in any other part of the world.
Wind. It's really windy.
The ridge that I think the lyrebirds are on is the one off this the hub mountain here. The big ridge goes down to the Kermung. So I thought we might explore down the ridge a bit and then come back and take a camp. Is that all right?
That's beautiful.
We might just go down out of the wind a bit.
The lyrebirds are winter breeders, unlike the birds they most frequently mimic, and they mimic their models' songs at a time or season when these songs have no biological significance to the models, but still convey territorial information to rivals.
I do have a strong sense, one of the great things, the birth of so-called European philosophy was, I suppose you think right back to people like Plato. And Plato, in order to teach philosophy, teach about ideas, about thoughts and the shapes of thoughts, wrote tremendous numbers of dialogues involving a teacher and a pupil. And I think that teacher-pupil is a very, very important ingredient of these things. And it would be very interesting to know whether there are populations of lyrebirds who have got simply bad teachers, whose grammar isn't very good, or whose sense of colour isn't very good, and they're sort of basically rather boring. I mean, it's interesting to imagine that if you could have a lyrebird to tea, whether there'd be some that would be damn good to listen to, and others that would just bore the pants off you, really.
Looking forward to a cup of tea.
Tea with Edward Cowie. That'd be fun.
You'd love that.
He's a natural scientist, a composer, and a visual artist.
The school I used to go to in Mortdale Primary School, when I was there, used to win, I mean, I had nothing to do with it, I wasn't even in the team, used to win the Gould League Shield for bird calls every year. They had shield after shield after shield up on the walls.
Yeah, Matthew Doyle's very interested in mimicry, both, with his dig and also vocally.
We want to learn if birds really sing in the true sense of singing.
You probably know that bird song is one of the... It's almost sort of Star Trek territory. Although it's been written about for a very long time, since Gilbert White and before, so we're talking sort of late 18th, 19th century writers, the science of ornithology sort of really didn't start until, I suppose, the 1940s with people like Thorpe. But even to this day, if one looks at the very latest books, there's a beautiful one by Catchpole that's just come out. He said it's extremely difficult to define what the function of bird song is, apart from the more obvious things it's to do with territory, courtship and so on, contact sounds. But what is very difficult is why do birds compose things the way they do, and why does a bird, which has such an incredible, beautiful flute-like voice, make such extraordinary hisses and clicks and rattles?
I can't remember when it was that I first asked you about lyrebirds imitating the sound of forestry. No idea when it was. What was it that you thought you heard in a way?
Well, they would seem to me definitely imitating axes.
Axes?
And I can't remember now whether I thought they were imitating chainsaws too, but I hadn't heard them doing that before.
Had you heard of them doing that before?
No, I'm not a specialist in wildlife, and I work on very first principles basis, Yes. But if they can imitate other birds, they can imitate other things as well.
Let's play a lyrebird and see why we think he sings.
But why a bird which is basically pretty secretive, like the lyrebird, should produce such an incredible series of effects, I can't imagine, except, this is just a personal, slightly idiosyncratic theory, I think they're showmen.
Mm-hmm. A selfless artist.
Selfless.
He's a shy one. He always performs in seclusion.
Well, you hear his voice but rarely see his dance.
Yeah, I never have.
Haven't you? I have once. This amazing quivering tail. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Do you think maybe this is the ridge that you were talking about?
Might be, yeah. Yes, because we came and went from the top of the Hub Mountain, so it'd be more likely to be this one.
Follow that bird.
All on the trail.
Edward Cowie was so taken by the extraordinary performance he heard in his first encounter that he set out to transcribe it.
Didn't Messiaen do that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like Messiaen in the absolute sense, but I had a notebook in which to try and write down as much of the song as I could. And it really was absolutely magical. I mean, if you put that against the kind of throb and tick and rattle of, I guess they were crickets of some kind, and at one point I could definitely hear this kind of gunking noise of frogs. And that sort of magical, it wasn't just a moment, it was a collection of moments stuck in my mind.
Composer, natural scientist and artist Edward Cowie, ending that beautiful piece by Jane Ullman and Russell Stapleton about the glorious lyrebird.